I went to my best friend's wedding in California, believing it would be just another beautiful night. Champagne, flutes clinking, polite smiles, and the quiet reminder that I was single again. The venue was tucked into the rolling hills just outside Napa, all warm lights and white roses, fairy lights strung like constellations above long wooden tables. The air smelled like lavender and expensive perfume. Everyone looked happy. Everyone except me, at least on the inside. I told myself I was there only to celebrate. Nothing more. I'd built that wall carefully over the years, brick by brick, after learning the hard way that feelings could be dangerous. Love, especially for someone like me, had never come without consequences. So I smiled, hugged friends, took photos, and kept my heart locked safely away. That was the plan. Then the music started. The band took their places near the dance floor, and the wedding planner tapped the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's live performers." And then he stepped forward. The singer, later I'd learn his name was Evan Carter, didn't just walk onto the stage. He owned it. Tall, dark hair, slightly messy in a way that looked intentional, tailored black suit with the top button undone, like rules were optional for him. When he smiled at the crowd, something shifted in the room. People leaned in without realizing it. His voice came out smooth and rich, wrapping itself around the melody like it belonged there. Conversations softened. Forks paused midair. Even the couple at the sweetheart table turned to look. I stayed seated at first, watching from distance, detached, until his eyes found mine. It happened, so suddenly I almost missed it. 1 second, he was singing effortlessly. The next, he stopped. Not dramatically. Not enough for most people to notice. Just a hitch. A break in the rhythm. His voice faltered. His fingers tightened around the microphone. And for half a heartbeat, the entire song collapsed into silence. Our eyes were locked. I felt it. This strange electric pull, like I'd stepped into someone else's dream. He stared at me, as if he recognized me, as if I had walked into his life uninvited. Someone behind him, his bandmate, I assumed, cleared his throat and gave a small, urgent nod. Evan blinked, inhaled sharply, and continued singing. But something was wrong. I told myself I was imagining it. Weddings were emotional. Music did things to people. Still, unease crept up my spine. I stood and moved closer to the stage, telling myself I just wanted a better view. That's when I noticed the details. He kept looking at me, not casually, not like a performer scanning the audience. His gaze returned to me again and again, like he was checking to see if I was still there. His voice, once steady, now trembled slightly on certain notes. Not enough to sound bad, just enough to sound human. Vulnerable. My chest tightened. I didn't understand why this stranger's reaction mattered to me, but it did. Every lyric suddenly felt personal, like it was being sung at me instead of for the crowd. After barely 30 minutes, the music stopped. Evan stepped back from the mic, offering a polite smile. "Thank you, everyone. I'm feeling a bit exhausted, so we're going to wrap up early tonight." There was light applause, confused murmurs. Weddings weren't supposed to end the music early, but no one questioned it. People returned to their conversations. Life went on, except for me. Why me? Why had he looked at me like that? Why did it feel like something had just cracked open? I tried to shake it off, blaming the wine, the atmosphere, the loneliness I pretended I didn't feel. I congratulated the couple, laughed at jokes I barely heard, and told myself the night would end the way it always did, quietly, uneventfully. Then I felt someone behind me. "Hey." I turned. It was him. Up close, Evan looked less untouchable and more nervous. The confidence he'd worn on stage had softened. His smile was hesitant, his shoulders slightly tense, like he was bracing for rejection before it even happened. I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded compared to the chaos in my chest. "I know this is weird," he began, rubbing the back of his neck. "But would you like to go on a date with me?" Just like that. No long introduction. No explanation. Just a question that landed between us like a spark near gasoline. My instinct screamed no. I didn't know him. I didn't trust moments that felt too cinematic, too perfectly timed. And I definitely didn't trust people who could make my heart race with a single look. I hesitated, my guard snapping back into place. "I don't even know you." He nodded quickly, like he'd expected that. "That's fair. Totally fair." He smiled again, softer this time. Look, it doesn't have to mean anything. Just coffee. No expectations. No pressure. I studied his face, searching for arrogance, manipulation, anything familiar. Instead, I found sincerity. And something else. Fear. For reasons I couldn't explain, that scared me more than confidence ever could. The logical part of me wanted to walk away. To protect myself. To keep my carefully constructed life exactly as it was. But another part of me, the part I'd buried deep, whispered, what if this is the moment everything changes? I exhaled slowly. Okay, I said. Coffee. The relief on his face was immediate, almost boyish. Really? I nodded. Really? We exchanged numbers. Nothing dramatic. No promises. Just a quiet agreement beneath the fairy lights of someone else's forever. As he walked away, disappearing back into the crowd, I felt it, the unmistakable shift of fate, the subtle click of a door opening that I hadn't known existed. I had no idea then that this single decision, this simple yes, would unravel my entire world. I just knew that nothing would ever be the same again. We met 3 nights later at a quiet jazz cafe, tucked between a bookstore and a closed-down theater in downtown Los Angeles. It was the kind of place you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. Dim amber lights, scratched wooden tables, a piano that had seen better decades, and music that didn't demand attention but earned it. The air smelled like espresso and old vinyl. It felt safe, intimate, like a secret. Evan was already there when I arrived, sitting near the back, fingers wrapped around a chipped mug. When he looked up and saw me, his face lit up in a way that made my chest tighten. Not flashy, not rehearsed, just real. Hey, he said softly, standing like he wasn't sure whether to hug me or not. Hey, I replied, suddenly aware of how fast my heart was beating. We sat, ordered coffee. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy, loaded with everything we hadn't said at the wedding. I keep replaying that night, he finally admitted, staring into his cup. The second I saw you, something just happened. I didn't interrupt him. I've sung at hundreds of weddings, he continued. Thousands of faces. But I've never frozen like that. Never felt like the room disappeared. He looked up at me then. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. In a good way. I swallowed. That's intense. He laughed quietly. Yeah, that's one word for it. As the night unfolded, so did he. Evan talked about his life on the road. How music had become a job instead of a dream. He sang love songs for other people's forever while feeling empty inside his own skin. He told me how applause felt hollow when he went back to hotel rooms alone. I don't even know why I keep doing it, he said. Sometimes it feels like I'm just background noise for other people's happiness. I told him about myself, about the walls I'd built, the relationships that never quite fit, the way I'd learned to expect less so it wouldn't hurt as much. We laughed too, about bad dates, terrible open mic performances, the weird things people say when they're nervous. Hours slipped by unnoticed. The cafe closed around us, chairs stacking, lights dimming further. Outside, the city hummed softly. Evan gestured to his car. Want to take a drive? I should have said no. I didn't. That first night turned into a pattern. One night became another, and then another. Late-night drives through empty streets, windows down, music low. Conversations that wandered from childhood memories to fears we'd never said out loud. We walked along the beach at midnight, shoes in hand, waves licking at our feet like they were in on the secret. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. One night, he took me to a small rehearsal space he rented. It was bare, just a stool, a mic, and his guitar. He didn't announce anything. He just started playing. He sang only for me. No performance voice. No crowd-pleasing polish. Just raw sound and honesty. His voice cracked once, and instead of hiding it, he leaned into it. I felt the song settle somewhere deep inside me, rearranging things I thought were permanent. When he finished, he looked at me nervously. I've never sung like that for anyone. You should, I said, my voice barely steady. It's different. He smiled. You're different. We didn't rush anything. There were touches, fingers brushing, shoulders leaning together. But the real intimacy came from elsewhere. From the way he listened when I spoke. From the way he remembered small details. from the way he looked at me like I mattered. "I feel seen with you," I admitted one night as we sat on the hood of his car, city lights stretched beneath us. He didn't joke it away. "That's because I see you." Somewhere along the way, he told me I inspired his music again, that melodies came easier when I was around, that he'd started writing lyrics that felt honest for the first time in years. No one had ever said that about me before. I fell hard, not dramatically, not all at once. It happened quietly, in moments I didn't recognize as dangerous until it was too late. In the way I smiled when his name lit up my phone. In the way I started imagining him in my future without meaning to. For the first time, the idea of building something with someone didn't terrify me. But then the cracks. They were small at first, easy to excuse. He never introduced me to friends. When I asked casually, he'd smile and say soon. Or, "They're complicated." He disappeared for days during what he called tours. No calls, no texts, just silence that stretched uncomfortably long. When he came back, he was always affectionate, always apologetic, always convincing. "You know this life is messy," he'd say. "I promise I'm not going anywhere." I wanted to believe him. Still, unease crept in during the quiet moments. The pauses in conversation. The way his smile sometimes faded too quickly when the future came up. The way I felt like I was standing at the edge of something beautiful and dangerous at the same time. One night, as he slept beside me, I watched his chest rise and fall and wondered what parts of him I still didn't know. I didn't yet understand that love can feel safest right before it tests you. And I had no idea that the man who made me feel chosen might not have chosen me at all. I didn't find out the truth in a dramatic way. There was no shouting, no shattered glass, no warning music playing in the background. It came quietly, the way the worst truths always do, slipping into my life like it belonged there. It was a Sunday afternoon. Evan had been on tour again. 3 days of silence. No calls, no messages. I told myself not to overthink it, even as something heavy pressed against my chest. I opened my laptop, searching for a distraction, and that's when I saw it. A photo. Evan stood on a small stage in Chicago, guitar slung over his shoulder, smiling wide. His arm was wrapped around another man, close, familiar, intimate in a way you don't fake. The caption beneath the photo read, "So proud of you, love." Love. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. My hands shook as I scrolled, heart pounding louder with every swipe. More photos, different dates, different cities, the same man, always beside him, always present. I wasn't a secret. I was an escape. When Evan finally returned to Los Angeles, I didn't wait. I confronted him the moment he stepped into my apartment. He barely had time to set his bag down. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my effort to stay calm. His smile faded instantly. "What?" "The guy in Chicago," I said. "The one you call love." Silence fell between us, thick and suffocating. Evan exhaled slowly and sat down, rubbing his face like a man already exhausted by a fight he knew he'd lose. "I didn't plan for this," he said quietly. "That's not an answer." He looked up at me then, and for the first time since we met, there was no charm in his eyes. No softness, just honesty stripped bare. "I have someone," he admitted. "It's complicated." A hollow laugh escaped me. "Funny, you never mentioned complicated." "I didn't want to hurt you. You let me fall in love with you." I snapped. "You let me believe I mattered." "You did matter," he said quickly. "You still do." I shook my head. "No, I was your break from reality. Your escape from a life you didn't want to deal with." His jaw tightened. I needed comfort, and I was convenient. He didn't deny it. "I never planned to stay," he said, voice low. "I didn't think it would go this far." Something inside me cracked open completely then. All the nights, the laughter, the music, it collapsed into a single, painful truth. I wasn't chosen. I was used. "So what now?" I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. He stood, slinging his bag over his shoulder. "Now I go back. Just like that. No apology worth remembering. No fight to keep me." He walked out of my life the same way he'd walked into it. Suddenly, decisively, leaving silence behind. The days that followed were unbearable. I didn't sleep. When I did, I dreamed of him singing, his voice echoing while I stood in an empty room, unseen. I stopped answering calls. Food lost its taste. Music, once comforting, felt like a knife. I stared at my reflection and wondered what was wrong with me. Why I was never enough for someone to stay. There were nights I cried until my chest hurt, until my body felt heavier than the bed beneath me. Nights I wished I'd never gone to that wedding, never locked eyes with a stranger who knew exactly how to undo me. But pain doesn't stay pure forever. Eventually, it changes shape. I started therapy, not because I wanted to fix myself, but because I needed to understand why I kept giving my heart to people who treated it like a temporary shelter. I threw myself into work, staying late, chasing promotions, proving, mostly to myself, that I was capable of more than heartbreak. Slowly, I felt myself returning. Stronger, clearer, less willing to disappear for someone else's comfort. Months passed, and then, one morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Evan had released a new song. It was everywhere. Streaming platforms, social media, people calling it raw, emotional, devastating. A love song about loss and regret, about the one who got away. My stomach dropped as I listened. I recognized the lyrics, not just the feeling, the words. Lines we'd written together late at night. Lines I'd suggested, edited, shaped. Words born from my vulnerability, now wrapped in his melody and shared with the world. But he'd made a mistake. My name was on the legal draft. I still had the emails, the recordings, the timestamps. I didn't have to fight publicly. I didn't have to shame him. I let the law speak. Within days, the credits updated. There it was, clear and undeniable, written by Evan Carter and my name. The internet noticed. So did he. He called, messaged, apologized in paragraphs, told me he missed me, that he'd made a mistake, that the song meant nothing without me. For the first time, I didn't rush to answer. The tables had turned. He had my voice now, but I finally had my power. And this time, I wasn't sure I wanted to give him anything at all. I didn't respond to Evan right away. Not because I wanted revenge, and not because I enjoyed watching him unravel. I stayed silent because, for the first time, I wasn't desperate to be chosen. I had already chosen myself. When I finally agreed to meet him, it wasn't late at night or behind closed doors. It was a quiet afternoon in a public cafe. Neutral ground. Safe ground. He arrived early, standing when he saw me, hands folded tightly like he was afraid I might disappear if he blinked. "I'm sorry," he said before I even sat down. "No teatrix. No excuses." Just 2 words heavy with everything he'd never said before. I didn't rush to comfort him. Sorry for what? For running, he admitted. For being a coward when something real scared me. He told me the truth then, the full version, not the edited one. He said he panicked because what he felt with me wasn't temporary or easy. It didn't fit neatly into the life he'd already built. So he fled back to what was familiar, even if it was empty. "I didn't know how to choose you without blowing everything up," he said, eyes glassy. "So I chose nothing. I let the silence sit between us. I needed him to feel it. I loved you," I said quietly. "But loving you almost cost me myself." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I know, and I don't expect forgiveness. I just couldn't live with myself if I didn't try." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I told him I needed time. Weeks passed, then months. And Evan didn't disappear this time. He showed up, not dramatically, consistently. Texts that didn't demand replies. Invitations with no pressure. Apologies that didn't ask for immediate absolution. He introduced me to his friends without hesitation. Mentioned me in interviews. Stopped hiding behind half-truths and vague timelines. When we walked together, he didn't let go of my hand. The fear was still there, for both of us, but something else had replaced the chaos. Respect, patience, effort. One evening, he invited me to another wedding. "I'll understand if you say no," he said. "But I want you there." I went. The venue was smaller than the first. Less grand, more intimate. Candles instead of chandeliers. Soft laughter instead of spectacle. Evan stood on stage again, guitar in hand. But this time, he didn't scan the room nervously. He looked only at me. "This song," he said into the mic, voice steady, "is about choosing the right thing, even when it scares you. The first note rang out, and I felt it immediately. This wasn't a performance. This was a confession. He sang about running and returning, about silence and second chances, about learning that love isn't something you escape from. It's something you stand inside, even when it shakes you. I cried, not from pain this time, but from recognition. When the song ended, the room erupted in applause. Evan stepped down from the stage and stood in front of me, eyes hopeful but grounded. "I'm here," he said, "and I'm not leaving." In that moment, I understood something I'd been afraid to admit before. Love shouldn't hurt the way it once did. It shouldn't make you feel small or temporary. But real love isn't effortless either. It stays. It learns. It chooses again and again. I took his hand. "I choose happiness," I said, but this time with boundaries, with honesty. He smiled. "That's the only way I want it." We didn't become perfect. We became real, and that was enough. I went to a wedding expecting nothing. I left with a love that finally knew how to stay.